Well, I am very grateful for this opportunity to share with you our experience of our program together and different. Uh, we uh, we have a foundation which is called Saludarte, which means health and art together, and we promote health through art and humor. And we work with all kinds of populations, contributing to build a culture of peace. Now, how many of you know Playback Theatre? Have you heard of it, or have you seen it, watch it?
I've heard of it. I'm not sure if I've seen it. I did have an experience that I think might have been Playback Theatre at the Tron many years ago. It was experimented with, I think, in Scotland. If it's the same thing that I'm thinking of, which is
Okay, well, I'll tell you.
yeah,
Let me just. Well, Playback Theatre, it's an interactive and participatory, spontaneous form of theatre. It is a method, and it has been envisioned by Jonathan Fox, although Psychodrama and Moreno in 1921, he created the spontaneous theatre.
mm-hmm.
That's a very important background. Jonathan Fox had many influences, and he was living in Nepal, and he was investigating the importance of oral history to strengthen the communities.
Mm-hmm.
And well, he, with other influences as well, psychodrama and experimental theater, he created this methodology. There is an important ritual which enables to create a climate and a safely emotional climate so that the audience members, the audience participants, can feel that they can tell their personal stories to see them enacted on the spot.
Yeah, it is the same thing that I saw then.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you have got a conductor, actors, specially trained. There is a specially trained company, right? So you have actors, you have a musician or more than one musician, and you have a conductor. And there is a whole ritual so that you are creating a gradual rapport with the audience, and first with short forms such as with sculptures and other kinds of pairs. There are many forms of enacting what people are feeling. First, they are just sensations or emotions, and then you get, when the rapport is already established, we invite people to tell a personal story related to the theme of the session, of the workshop. Well, in our case, we work on the values. The values of Playback Theatre are strongly related with human values and to peace culture building. That's why they go so well together. Today, Playback Theatre is a method that is being used in more than 50 countries in the world, and it is very frequently used for social change. The vision is that spontaneity and creativity allows deeper encounters among people. That we are not only rational, but we are full of emotions, and we need to communicate in other ways in order that we can listen to other people more deeply. So active listening is one of the important parts of it, the empathy, to see what we have in common and to see our difference as enrichment and not as something that pull us apart. All the values of the diversity, respect for human rights, to understand everything that leads to be more open-minded and to see that there is not only one truth, but there are different subjective truths is part of it. So Playback Theatre is a very strong tool to work and with this in schools. But it isn't enough to work with the students. There is a whole system that has to be in the same track, let's say, to be able to produce some changes. You know, we know that going to a culture of non-violence is not easy. It takes many generations to reach that, but we must work for it. Our education must attend more thoroughly the social emotional education. We have been very cognitive, and many times the social emotional education has been neglected. So with these programs, we try to reinforce an aspect that had been not so well worked in education. One important aspect is that people who hadn't been heard before are having the opportunity to be recognized and heard. So they can tell their story, and not only that gives us the possibility of examining in a new light his or her story, but also to see, envision other possibilities of solutions. And many times we ask for the members of the audience who are the students or the parents of the teachers to give solutions to the problems. And this is very important because we stimulate them to stand up for peace culture, for non-violence. We strengthen the role of the bystander, the witnesses, to take action, to stop aggressiveness. Although we make prevention of bullying in schools, the most frequent situation is not that violence that goes on and on in time, as it is bullying, but the small violence, the small harassment, it might happen once. It doesn't need to become a bullying, but we have to, we focus that because that is the seed of what can become bullying. So
microaggressions, we call them.
How do you call them?
Microaggressions.
Oh, okay, okay. Mm-hmm. Do you want to, if you want to ask questions, please feel free to do it, okay? Sorry about my English is not quite brushed up, but
it's a lot better than ours.
Well, And people, the students, for instance, they get empowered because they feel recognized, they are listened without being judged, which is very important. And they very often they tell their story, they see the story enacted on the scene, and then the conductor, which is me in this case, I ask him or her, the teller, how did he see this, the scene? We call them stories, but they are scenes. And I also ask him if he wants to add something, to say something now that he has seen that story. Because many times after having seen the story, they have a new insight about it. And they say, well, from now on, I'll do something, or I want you to. And I ask them also if they want to say something to the other students. And when I ask the students to give solutions, and they say those solutions, and many times we enact those solutions in the scene, then I ask them to, if they would compromise to implement those solutions in real life. And I ask them to raise their hands, those who are really assuming a compromise in front of this teller, that this won't happen again. So they assume a compromise with witnesses. And another thing very interesting is that there is always a bystander, a victim, and a perpetrator of aggression. We try not to use the term bully, because bully is not an identity. And we know that negative labels are very difficult to shift. So we try to speak of the perpetrator of violence, or the aggressor, but not bully. No? Also because it happens that people who have been bullied might change to bystanders and might change to bullies. So people can oscillate among those roles. And playback theater allows to examine those roles and to change roles. So they can experiment, how is it to feel bullied? One of the children told us after doing that, after he was generally very aggressive, and he was a perpetrator of bullying. And when he had to dramatize the other role of being bullied, he really had a shock. He hadn't imagined that the person being bullied would feel that way until that moment he enacted with the other children. So, because we asked them to come on stage and enact with us those situations. So they get completely involved, and their motivation is so intense that many stories arise. So sometimes what I do is what I tell them, well, tell me just the title of your story. And so because per workshop we can do 3 or 4 stories or 5 stories at the most, because otherwise they would be very superficial. You know, to go deep into the story, you need time. And when they understand that they have this opportunity of being deeply heard, recognized, judged, and helped, they all want to tell stories. So sometimes what I do is I ask them to say a title, just as if it were a resume, and a title, and then to say one phrase, just one phrase. And then the others have to choose which stories they want to be enacted, because we don't have time to make them all. And so it's very, very participative. And we also sensitize with, we have some special songs. Maybe they are in Spanish. Do you want me to show you a little bit of that? Or a little bit of a video? Would you like?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how do you do this, because it's my first time with this.
Luciana, while Madeline is doing that, could you give a bit of context about the schools and the communities that you go into? Is it a problem in schools?
Yes, in Uruguay it is a big problem. It's growing, and we not only have physical bullying, but also cyberbullying.
Right, cyberbullying.
Yeah, that's a problem. So we work integrated with the school. You know, not the only thing that the school is doing. We are working together, and with psychologists, and I am psychologist too, but another role.
Right. And is there a mental health problem that is growing in Uruguay in the same way as it is in other countries?
I think so, yes. People are getting more radicalized, more polarized.
Right.
You know? You either think as I do, or you are my enemy, or those kinds of, So,
and my question is, how much steering do you give them when they go into the scenarios where one might be confronting another? How do you sort of manage that and keep that a sort of safe space for exploration?
Through the scene, you know, the scene is a mediator as well. So there is one version, there is another version. Sometimes that happens. One tellers tell one version of the story, and then comes another one and tells another version of the same story. That's very interesting. And we enact that, and the fact of seeing it and giving the students the opportunity even to change the scene by acting on that story, it's transforming the whole situation. Because pathology, mental pathology, has to be with not being able to change what does harm. But if you are allowed to make changes, the creativity is a very strong source of change. So they use we all use our creativity to envision that problem in another way, and to get solutions to the problem.
Sure. Well, I think the video is ready to go here if you want to. We'll give it a go. Are people hearing this?
Not hearing it, no.
Okay. Well, here's the other stimulus you gave me in case this is more helpful. It's a little less technically minded, which might be good for us today.
Okay. It's a very sad poem, but it represents the feeling of somebody who experienced bullying.
Okay.
Should I read it so that the people listening in audio later can, or will they see it?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Right. As he ran and fell, we pounded him like clay. Every punch, every insult, every slip, every fall made us a little older and stronger, honourable. And yes, we were great, powerful. We were the heroes of the world. We were men. That was until the next day, when they pulled their small, cold blue body out of the canal. We were men. Jack Fox.
Thank you.
There is always an imbalance of power involved in bullying. And also that idea that that becoming a man is becoming violent, that machismo, we say here, I don't know in English, but so there are many gender questions related to it. And also what happens mostly is that it's easier for students to tell stories about being bullied, but nobody wants to say, tell a story of bullying, you know, of being a perpetrator.
Mhm.
So we have to work with them to encourage them to tell those stories, which are more difficult to arise because nobody wants to recognize that he's a perpetrator. Yeah, and they don't see them as such. And also, there is sometimes they justify saying, well, but he's really very different. So we have to stress that nobody deserves to be bullied. And to reinforce the idea that, well, welcome, what can I learn from your difference? What can you learn from mine? The conscious that we also are different for the other, not just the other for me. All that we try to work with them, and they are very, very receptive. The limitations, I would say, are of resources, financial resources to sustain these programs and to make them as a public health. In order to get big changes, big social changes in education, these programs should be part of public politics, public programs, and they are not. They are not. So that's the main limitation, I think, because it's clear the benefits of it. It's very clear. Joe Salas, which is the spouse of Jonathan Fox, she developed Playback Theatre with her company in Apple. She also has a program to stop bullying with Playback Theatre.
Sorry, who was that?
Joe Salas.
Joan Salas.
Joe Salas.
Joe Salas.
Yes, if you Google her, you'll see she has a program for preventing bullying through Playback Theatre as well. Okay. And she had plenty of experience in the States with this.
Right.
So it's interesting for you to search for that.
We've got a question for you in the comment section about, could you talk more about how you use the songs?
The songs. We use them a lot. They sensitize and they raise awareness of the songs we sing. There are two of the programs which are marvelous. I don't know the authors, the compositors, but one, we adapted them. And we also adapted other songs for this program. And children love them, and this generates memory. And it becomes, it makes this program more playful and more, I mean, the humor and the pleasure must be there. Otherwise, you don't connect with children. So there is the sadness, but there is also always the joy of overcoming problems, the joy of a sense of community, the joy of the values that are strengthened, and the empowerment And the song, and we also dance with them. Sometimes we end a workshop with singing and dancing, and they get completely involved in that. We also teach them a choreography, very simple choreography of our songs, and then the teachers tell us that they keep on playing with that choreography when they are alone, I mean. So it gives a connection with the program even when we are not there. And we also share with them the songs so that they can use them even when we are not there. So to strengthen the message of the program. Does that answer your question? Yeah?
Getting a good thumbs up, so I think so.
Oh, I would like to know you all, what you are doing, if you are an educator as well, if you work in schools. Can you tell me?
Yeah. Who first then?
I think everyone's got their microphones muted to try and be polite, so I'll need to unmute everyone.
I don't, so I'm not polite. Yes, I sometimes work in schools, but also in community settings.
Mhm.
And I use a whole different range of tools and experiences of theatre. I moved away from forum theatre some time ago, at least 15 years ago, 20 years ago maybe. And I'm curious how much of this uses forum theatre technique, the playback technique. To me, when I saw it happen, and it was quite a difficult session, I felt quite uncomfortable with it. Probably because I wasn't collaborating, I wasn't in amongst it, I was observing. Because I do think you have to be in it to get the full benefit of it. But yeah, how much of it is forum theatre?
How much of it is forum theatre?
Forum theatre. How much of it uses those techniques of forum theatre?
A forum, yes, yes. Yes, Boal's methodology, yes, forum. We incorporate elements of forum theatre in playback theatre as well. In fact, we as well use plenty of tools, not just playback theatre. And we work in community as well, and we work in hospitals, and yes, we work in many contexts, and the tools are very, very varied, very diverse, I mean. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've got another introduction in the comments section, so I'll just read it. From Rebecca and Mitra, who are teaching artists in Minnesota Opera in the US, and they work with self-selected middle school and high schoolers in an opera experience. Rebecca goes into classrooms for an entire year and creates theatre with the inner city and lower income schools.
Great. Congratulations. Well, playback theatre is also very useful to work with adolescents, you say, teenagers, for preventing addictions and to work on sexuality items. Because we don't have it anymore, but for 10 years we had a playback dance company. It's an innovation we did, not just with theater, but with dance, in order to be able to metaphorize, metaphors, to work with subjects that are very delicate, such as sexuality, and that's very, very good to work with teenagers. And we also work in preventing addictions through, there is one methodology, we call it I feel, I think, and I act. and you have a different color of hat when you feel, you think, and you act. I mean, I feel is red, I think is blue, and I act is yellow. And we have those hats. So the students raise a conflict, and they have to put one hat and improvise a monologue. If they are with the red hat, they have to improvise that monologue of what they are feeling, just feelings that they have related to the conflict. If they put the blue hat, they say what they think about it. So the idea is that teenagers are sometimes very impulsive, and we installate thinking among feeling and acting. So we try that blue hat has a place between what they feel and what they do. That's very, very interesting too. It's very interactive, participatory, and it's very useful. And sometimes we see that they are in very complex and difficult situations, and they have to help the other students who are drunks, let's suppose, and they don't want to go home because they don't want their parents to know of their situation, and they have to handle with very, very difficult situations, health problems that need assistance, for instance. So they really need that help too. It's very useful.
We've had a comment about how much Rebecca and Mitra love the think, feel, act activity. I think that's capturing everyone's imagination. And we've also had another question about the choreography and whether or not that's based on improv, and if that's, is it spoken first and then danced, or does the choreography work?
It is showed first. We show the choreography and then we do it with them so that they practice it a little bit. It's very simple so that they can remember it. And well, the children love it. And they just copy it. You know, when you go to dance, and sometimes there are some dancers who show a choreography and they teach it on the spot. Well, we do that. Does it answer your question? Yes? Yes?
I think we're getting nods. Does anyone else want to introduce themselves briefly and talk about the work that they do?
Oh, that would be wonderful if they want. Or you say to all of us? Yes.
Okay, so my name is Peter Adalete. I'm a teaching artist here in Ghana, and also holding the ITAC flag very strong here. I'm much engaged with schools in communities and in schools. What I've been doing so far, I've also, in 2016, I worked with, that was my final year's project on a piece where I choreographed some works. Aside that, I've been doing drama as well. And I'm so much privileged to have what you talked about. I just had power cut out when we got to, you talked about Playback Theatre. I couldn't get enough of that, but I'll get the video, so I'll have the privilege to go back into it. I don't know if you have also come across TFD, Theatre for Development. Do you use that?
No. Tell me about it. I at least by that name, I don't know it.
Okay, it's Theatre for Development is also improv based, you know.
Oh, that sounds very interesting.
Oh, I wonder, he may have frozen.
Yeah. Maybe he can send me some information about, or a link
Sure.
of that method. I think it's I would like to know more about it.
Yeah, I'll start a thread of chat after this session because I'm conscious we've been cut short. We were cut short a little bit time-wise. So if you've got recommendations of resources, Rasia, and some names.
Yes, I will send
which are on the.
Yeah, it's frozen.
Yeah, I think he's cut out.
I will be glad to receive your suggestions, your links, and yes, to know more about your work too. Yes.
Yeah, Peter, it looks like you might be back. I was just saying you cut out there, but I'll start an email chain at the end. So if you wanted to send information about the developmental theatre practice you were talking about, then you can maybe swap notes on what that was. Unless you want to say a little more about it now, I'm not sure how your connection is.
Yeah, it's not stable here. I think I'll do that later.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you.
So we're coming into the last 5 minutes. Just if there are any final things you want to say to wrap up, if you want to sum up in some way, or if there are questions, this is probably a good time to invite those because I know we're coming towards the end.
Any questions?
Just to say thank you for sharing. It's really interesting. I'm interested in the context as well, because I think it's a global thing, and the more we can have conversations about this and share tools that work, the more likely we are to be able to tackle what's happening with young people in schools and mental health.
And there is also a school, Playback Theatre School in New Paltz, New York, but there are many opportunities of training outside the US because, as I told you, Playback Theatre is in more than 50 countries in the world. So I will send you the link of the IPTN, which is International Playback Theatre Network, and you can find out what you want to know about the possibilities of training as well, which is very, very, very interesting.
Sure.
In Latin America, we have also a great movement of spontaneous theater, which is strongly connected to playback theater, but it's less specific, you know. There are plenty of resources.
I'd be interested in hearing about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I will send you information as well. Yeah.
Great.
Are you in social networks? If you want to keep in contact, I am in Instagram by my name, Rasia.f, and in Facebook by my name as well.
Rasia dot
F.
For anyone who follows ITAC on social media, the last couple of posts have tagged Rasia, so that's an easy way to find you.
Okay. And Saludarte, we are in Facebook as Saludarte Foundation. You put Saludarte, Fundación Saludarte in Spanish, and you have the link, Madeleine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can send, yeah. And you can follow our activities there as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you for giving a...
Thank you so much. Congratulations for your works. And it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
For your time. And
yes, that's
to share all this.
Yes, I'll start an email chain right after this, and then I'll upload the session, edit down probably some of the technical hitches for people listening back, and then I'll post that in the next day or so. So I think I have everyone's email address. If you don't want included on the email chain or you want edited out of the listen back, let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. These are every month, so look out for our themes, and if anything catches your attention, do sign up. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rasia, and thank you everyone for coming.
Brilliant. Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks all.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.